Hello, everybody. Welcome to Arsenal X, the Xbox podcast here on the Boss Rush Network. I'm your host, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the wise Wisconsinite, Mr. Jesse Douglas.
How's it going, everyone? Running Windows 11.
Back from his...
the big man over here. Running Windows 11.
That other sexy voice you hear is the joy of Arsenal X, is Stoy Jovic.
Yeah, I'm here to bring the joy.
You are joy.
I am the personification of joy. Like, usually when people are always around me, they always say what a joy I am to be around. Like, I'm always full of pep, always full of energy. And I'm just a very pleasant guy to be around.
You know, the more you're speaking, the less I believe.
Corey. I'm pleasant. I'm trying to be pleasant.
Speaking of pleasant, everybody have a pleasant week. Everybody had a good week. Good week.
I spent 3 hours trying to dig a 3-foot hole yesterday.
Ooh, how'd that go?
Jesus.
I finished.
Well, that's good.
All I had. It's one of those things when you're doing the home projects, splurge for the machinery.
Oh, were you using one of those where you jam it down?
I didn't even do that. I had a garden tiller.
Oh, okay.
Because I was at the store and I was like gonna get that shovel thing, but then I saw the garden tiller and I thought, well, that I think is gonna get more work done than that damn shovel thing. It's like putting two spoons together and just what am I supposed to do with this? So like the garden tiller I thought was okay, it worked fine, but I could have gotten the metal auger machine. Yeah. I could have rented it, but I was like, nah. How long is it gonna take me to dig a 3-foot hole? I mean, it didn't take me 3 hours. I would say probably a little over an hour, but still, it was a pain in the ass. Anyway, I'm just trying to rebuild a portion of my fence, and I needed to sink a post yesterday. Okay. So
probably felt like 3 hours, though.
I think it did, yeah.
Probably felt like 6 hours.
I brought my Bluetooth speaker out there, and I ended up playing like two music albums. So to me, that's like 2 hours. But,
what are you talking about? Albums are only like 25 minutes these days.
I know, no kidding. That's why I think like one of the albums was like, damn, have I been out here that long? The album's over already. But yeah, I think it was like a half-hour album, whatever, no big deal.
So it was like one playing of Inagata Davida.
Yeah. I don't even know what that is. Is that a Pearl Jam?
No.
Is that a Pearl Jam?
The Inagata Davida song that's like 20 minutes long. This Iron Butterfly.
That sounds fake.
I'm shaking my head. I got nothing. I did because the only reason why I say Pearl Jam is I think Pearl Jam had a song like that.
Oh, okay.
And on their Vitology album, whatever.
Yeah, that's like a '70s song, the Iron Butterfly.
Okay.
Inagata Davida. It's like a 20-minute long song or something like that.
It's not Freebird or anything like that.
No.
Okay. Got it.
Wow. I had a good week too. I was off all week. It felt real nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I took Thursday and Friday off because my wife went in for breast reduction surgery, and so I took off so I could stick around to help her out, and then I ended up getting a sinus infection, but I still was able to help her out and stuff, but I was sleeping basically whenever she didn't need help. So I kind of like you, Corey. I just finally today actually feel like a normal human being.
Yeah.
So
sounds like we all had riveting weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't sick. I was just
no, but I mean, I don't know if digging a 3-foot hole is much better than being sick. No, it probably is.
I don't know. I think I'd rather have dug a 3-foot hole than probably sit and be sick, but whatever.
Yeah. Do you at least have a Pabst?
No, I don't drink Pabst. You know that. I have a very refined taste in hams.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. No, it's Oktoberfest season, so I've been into a lot of the Oktoberfests and the fest beers, so it's going to be sad when October's done and all of a sudden the liquor stores pull all their Oktoberfest beers and throw on all this like gingerbread pale ale crap that they throw on and like spicy wintry ales and just whatever.
Speaking of, have you ever come to Appleton for Oktoberfest?
No, never have.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
got our own Oktoberfest here. Like, there's
Okay.
quite a few different. Like, there's the Bavarian Beer House. Milwaukee Brewing Company has an Oktoberfest festival celebration. I participated in the mug challenge last year,
Oh,
where basically
okay.
like you hold these like two big steins full of water, and you have to like stick your hands out and you have to hold it as long as possible. So I got about like halfway through my group, and then I don't know, whatever. I didn't stretch enough.
Yeah, they block off like a whole mile long, or over. I think it's over a mile long stretch of College Avenue, and then it's just all like food, food things and beer, and they've
Did you
got
guys
like.
do it this year? Did it go on this year?
The funny thing is that it's always in November.
That's not funny. That's actually technically when Oktoberfest is supposed to be.
Yeah. So yeah, it
because the true Oktoberfest happened in November, and it was a wedding celebration.
Okay. Yeah. So it always happens the first week of November, here. And yeah, and then they've got like 5 or 6 different stages with different bands playing, and yeah, it's just pure insanity. There's just so many people usually that you can barely even walk through the mile long stretch of just drinking and
drinking festivals in Wisconsin. Nothing like it.
So yeah,
every festival revolves around drinking here.
And then it always kicks off with car show, where they just like all these people who have like all these kinds of fancy old and new cars like park
50-year-old white dudes. You forgot to mention.
Yeah.
It's all 50-year-old white dudes walking around like, that's a nice engine you got there. Yeah, let's check out this engine. Nice engine.
I'm going through my midlife crisis. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I bought 3 motorcycles for my midlife crisis, so I'm not one to judge. But I call things like I see it.
I bought my Xbox Series X.
Not a midlife crisis, Jesse. That's just being a normal human being.
I don't know what I would buy for my midlife crisis, because I'm not into cars or any of those kind of stereotypical things.
Buy a motorcycle. It's worth it. Just don't drive like an idiot. Don't ride like an idiot, okay? That's all I recommend.
Well, I don't know what I would buy for a midlife crisis either. Probably just a giant TV, but that's also just kind of being a normal human.
No. A midlife crisis is literally you going completely against the norm. You could buy a TV any day of the week, but like, yeah, maybe you go buy a motorcycle. Maybe you go buy a Corvette. Or maybe you take up a brand new hobby, like, I don't know.
So in other
people
words,
in Ohio do for hobbies.
So in other words, I'll buy a treadmill.
Well, I mean, that's not a bad thing. You could buy that anytime. It's not a midlife crisis, Jesse.
That would go against the norm for me, okay?
I don't like the things that most people in their 50s do around here. They usually wear Confederate flag T-shirts and I don't know, probably buy a whole bunch of new Klan hoods or something. I don't know.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. I guess I haven't hit my midlife crisis yet, because typically the midlife crisis hits between 45 and 65. So I'm not quite there yet, but maybe I was getting ahead of the curve. So
it's fair.
But yeah. That's at a point where, so something in your life severely upsets you that you need a kind of like a real huge break from the norm. So, yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to go through it. I'm going to close that Wikipedia page.
No more mortality.
No more. Speaking of break from the norm, before we get into the show, so Jesse, you're an HBO Max guy. While I was like dying on the couch for the last 2 days, I started watching Titans, the
Oh,
the
okay.
DC show. It's Did you watch it at all? Did you watch it at all?
I've started it. I kind of started it late as well because I watched like the first episode. I think was free. Well, like when it was part of the DC streaming service thing.
Oh,
that
the DC Universe service.
Yeah. I think the first episode was free when that first started, and I watched that, and then like it eventually came to HBO Max, and I just kind of never really got around to watching it until like maybe like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
So I've watched a little bit of the first season, most of the first season, I think, but I haven't finished all of it.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching that, and it's all right. It reminds me of like a really one of the CW shows, but with a budget. So that's it. I thought maybe you watched it. I thought we were gonna have more to talk about that, but I guess we don't. So
I mean, I liked it. I like it so far. Like what I've seen, I think the characters, the people that they have playing the characters do a really good job. Like I like
the guy who plays Dick Grayson a lot.
Yeah, he's really good.
Although I thought at this point Dick Grayson would have been Nightwing, but he's still Robin at the beginning of the show. Is he turned into Nightwing? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I think eventually he does. Yeah, because I mean this is like kind of like the beginning of him kind of being resentful of Batman. Like, and then because there's Nightwing, and then but actually I forget if he's technically becomes Red Hood.
No, that's Jason Todd becomes Red Hood.
Oh yeah. So he because I know there's so many Robins that end up becoming bad guys after dealing with Batman.
Yeah.
Why does this look like an angsty teen series?
Oh, because it definitely is.
Because it is.
It's
okay. All right.
It's much more adult. Like it's not. It's like a hard R.
Yeah, right. It's like an angsty R teen.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood and a lot of blowing people's body parts up and stuff. And they show it. They're not afraid to show it. Like the guy who's like the one girl like murders this guy straight up by like using her power to blow up all of his organs at one time, and then all the blood comes spewing out of his mouth when he falls over. That was violent.
Yeah, it's very similar to that show The Boys on Amazon, because like that show is really very, very violent. Even like The Boys is so violent actually that it kind of turns me off. Like there's just some stuff that they really focus on that show too much, and they go too overboard with it. I just don't like it's like that gore porn kind of stuff. Like I hated like the movie Hostel and like those kinds of movies where it's just just for people who are absolutely just love violence. And I'm not really into that. Like when it comes to horror movies, like I'm more likely to want to watch the cheesier stuff and things like that, because I just like, for me, horror movies are more for fun than that kind of stuff. But because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should get into the show now, but I just want to say that I was enjoying that show. It kind of made me want to go back and finish stuff like The Flash and Arrow and stuff, but then I was like, I don't have that kind of time. 25 episodes, an hour each. It's going to take me 5 years just to finish one of those. So anyways, this is Arsenal X, the Xbox podcast here on the Boss Rush Network, where each and every week we get together with our friends from around the internet to talk about Xbox and everything we love about it, from news, rumors, new games, Game Pass, and more. Check out Arsenal X on Sunday nights on twitch.tv/Boss Rush Network at 8:30 Eastern Time, or on podcast services and YouTube every Tuesday morning. Follow us on all social media platforms at Boss Rush Network, and you can catch all of our podcast reviews, banter pieces, and more on our website, bossrush.net. let's jump into what we've been playing. Stoy, we're going to go your way first because you're always playing something, we'll say, interesting.
Yeah. Well, besides forcing myself to play Far Cry 6, I also played Flynn, Son of Crimson, Jesse.
Okay.
I'm thoroughly enjoying that game. Very easy and very basic. Like, it's not a hard game to get into. Because a lot of times with these like pixel side-scrolling games, like sometimes the difficulty level can be up a notch because it's kind of reminiscent of those, Ninja Gaiden style games of just like it's intensely hard for no reason, like it shouldn't be. But this is refreshing because it's like it's still challenging. It's still a challenging platformer and still challenging combat, but it's easy. Like it's not like, you're going to be dying like every 10 seconds. Like you can actually make meaningful progress and actually enjoy it as much as possible. So it's actually pretty refreshing.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely, that's definitely a great way to put it because, it's just a kind of a nice, a little bit more relaxing game to play. And like you said, if you're used to those type of, like platformer games and stuff, you shouldn't have any problems just kind of easing right into it.
Right. And obviously I'm playing on normal, so it's not like I like dropped it down to easy or casual or whatever. So, a lot of the enemies you have to kind of like, they all have that telltale attack sign, and then you have to know when to dodge or when to jump. And, thankfully you can like actually dodge roll like through the enemies so you can attack them from behind if need be. And, every enemy you can stagger. But no, it's actually a really good game. Very basic story. You have this superpower that you didn't know you had, and now you got to go save the world and you got to save your dog and stuff. So but I'm having fun with it. Like it's really cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise for Spooky Game Month, I picked up. Now I bought this game. I know it's on GamePass, but I bought this game because it was like $20 on sale. Because I ended up picking up House of Ashes, the Dark Pictures anthology.
Oh, okay.
So I picked up Dark Ashes this Friday, and I was like, but I haven't played the previous one, Little Hope. So I picked that one up too, and it was like $20. So I was like, whatever. I mean, like I said, I just like having physical copies of games. So I ended up knocking out a couple hours of that. And have you played Man of Medan, the first one?
This is the funny thing is I own so the game
this
they
doesn't
made
sound like it's going to be funny, Jesse. It sounds like it's going to be pretty sad.
The PS4, they made the game on PS4 that's like my all-time favorite game that was a PlayStation exclusive.
Until Dawn?
Until Dawn. Yeah. And I own all of the games except for the newest one, but I haven't got around to playing them yet.
That's not funny, Jesse. That's pretty sad.
Because I want to play these with my wife, because the whole multiplayer stuff.
I have to play this game with my wife too. She doesn't want to play it because she just likes to watch these type of games. So, and obviously it's Spooky Games Month. She wanted to watch me play Visage. And after we finished the one chapter of Visage, I was like, it's probably going to be a while before I want to jump back into that again. So, but Little Hope is actually really good because Man of Medan was kind of like, it's a spooky gas type story of just spoilers if you haven't played it. Do you want me to spoil it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, right.
I'm not.
It's like basically like a spooky gas that makes people hallucinate. That's
okay.
It.
Okay.
So, and it was like, I don't know if that's kind of, it's kind of like a bummer of a game reveal at the end. But this one's got kind of like a Little Hope is a little town in Massachusetts, and it's got strong ties to like Salem witch trial type stuff. And you're a college professor and a group of college kids. Like, your bus is driving through the dark, and all of a sudden crashes, and of course you end up going to you get off the bus, and then you end up wandering into this town, Little Hope, aka Silent Hill, because it's very reminiscent of Silent Hill because everything is foggy and crazy ghosts, and you're seeing shit in the dark and whatever. But what I love about this developer, Supermassive Games, they do such a good job of really crafting a good story, and like the choices you make matter. but not only like the choices, the relationships you make with the other characters, because you'll have now. I'm gonna say none of these characters have any redeeming qualities. They're all jerks. They're all idiots. None of them are really likable, except maybe one guy. But like, it's like I don't care if everybody dies. It don't matter to me. But um, they, yeah, they all have their own little like kind of personality traits. And in order for you to get out of this town, to get out of this, haunted town, and not only that, not only get out, but to find out what happened, like why you're seeing ghosts and why you're seeing a crazy little girl running around in the dark and whatever. Um, you have to kind of work together and you have to kind of appeal to each other's personalities. So like, there's the awkward boyfriend girlfriend couple. Like the one girl thinks like, you could think to yourself like to this guy like, hey, we're not really boyfriend girlfriend. We're just kind of messing around, and he could get really butthurt by it. Or you could kind of play along with him just so he can kind of like think to himself like, yeah, I got a girlfriend. And then you got this old lady who's just like kind of very high and mighty, but she's also really nervous about everything. So you have to appeal to her senses a little bit. And then you got your college professor who's a real dick, but he's the leader of the group. And you have to appeal to that sense of him that whenever he makes a decision, you have to kind of back him up or kind of pump him in the chest a bit. Like, hey, man, you're leading this group, so you should be making some big decisions. And depending on the relationship, sometimes like, this person could die or this person could make a completely different decision that, maybe if you'd have treated that person differently, they would have made another different decision. So it's really unique. Like it's one of those things that it's like you could play this game multiple playthroughs and get different outcomes. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I do want to get to all those games eventually here because that's kind of my I love that kind of stuff, and they do such a good job of it.
I'm glad
they really do.
I'm glad you guys are here to play these games because I am not.
Okay. Well,
Pass.
Spooky Games Month. A Spooky Games Month only happens once a year, Corey. So
I know.
Celebrate it.
I know.
So, no, but yeah, it's actually like kind of genuinely spooky. Like Man of Medan wasn't necessarily that spooky to me. Like it was just like, oh, you're in a derelict ship, like whatever, and just small dark corridors. But this is kind of like unsettling in a way, and in a lot of certain moments. And there's some decent jump scares that really kind of make you go, But yeah, like I said, the characters are not likable, but I think they grow on you over time. Like they're growing on me to the point where it's like, ugh, I have to save this person. Ugh, fine, but you have to you really got to make like kind of like split second decisions that kind of make sense. And there was one scene I played recently. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was like you made the difference between trying to save two people, and you really. It wasn't like, I mean, one person died if you saved this person, but there was one correct answer to save both of them. So I'm going to leave you with just that. There is only one correct answer to save both of them. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Because I found out, because I was like, it sounds like I need to make this decision. I need to make this decision because of what was happening in the scene. So like I made the decision and it ended up working out. So then I turned to my wife. I was like, I think if I'd have made the other decision, it wouldn't have ended good. So yeah.
That's fun.
But
it's always fun.
If you get to that point, I think you'll know what I'm talking about, and anybody listening out there would be like, I know that scene. I know what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, I'm a couple hours in, and it's really good. Like the kind of like the mystery of it. You get transported back in time to a particular witch trial that happens, and interestingly enough, like the characters that you're playing as now are the same characters from the backstory. So like every like time transported storyline you see, it's with those same characters. So it's kind of crazy like how they jump timelines, and it's the same people. But I'm pretty sure there's a really good reason for it. I just don't know it yet. But yeah. So otherwise, like I said, Far Cry 6, woohoo.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a woohoo.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Like, it's just, to use your words exactly, Corey, it's fine. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's fine. You know, it's fun to run around. It's fun to shoot. I got my little dog Chorizo now. I got the little wheelchair bound dog. So he's a cute little fucker. You know, he just distracts people. That's his shtick. So like he'll run around and run up to an enemy, and the enemy will be shooting at you. Like, oh, look at the little puppy, and then you just blast him and brain him in the head. It's great. The dog's like and runs away. So, but I was talking about it with the EXP cast guys earlier today, how it's like when that dog all of a sudden goes down and you have to revive your animal, whatever, everything stops. It's like, I don't care what happens. If I have to run into a fire to save this dog, I am going to do it. Like, everybody could be shooting at me, and it's like that slow motion scene of me running to the dog, like, no, Chorizo, no, you know, I will save you. And it's like that meme. It's like that meme that, I don't know if you know the one of the big guy, the big knight taking all the arrows and the little guy and, you know, underneath him. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So that's me saving Chorizo, because I'm like taking in all these like rocket blasts and like gunfire and everything, and Chorizo's safe because of me.
Yeah. When shit goes crazy in that game, it goes crazy.
And in this game, it does, man. Like, the one thing I learned is don't linger. Get what you need to get done in an area, whether you're in a base or in a stronghold or whatever. Get what you need to get done and get the hell out of there. Don't hang around, because the more you hang around, the more enemies start spawning. And then they have like these special forces that come in. They come in with helicopters. They come in with tanks. They come in with armored soldiers, man. Just get out of there. Get what you need to do and go. That's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and until you have weapons that, you know, have the ammunition that can actually take out the helicopters. And
because there's a helicopter every 10 seconds in this game. Like, if you go into a stronghold and like the alarm goes off, 2 seconds later, I shit you not, 2 seconds later, a freaking helicopter comes in. Like, what are you doing? Like, sitting in the sky, like, oh boy, I hope someone trips an alarm today. Like, it's crazy how fast this response time is. Like,
dude,
you know, it's the same thing. It's a Ubisoft thing, because the same freaking stuff happened in Breakpoint, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Anytime like you tripped an alarm, all these like hunter killer drones and helicopters come in out of nowhere within seconds. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and I like that the first time that had happened, I was like other than the backpack that does the special, like the rocket launcher thing, where it just launches.
I forget I have that. I forget I have that sometimes. Because it's like, man, I'm running around trying to like use a turret gun to like take out these helicopters, and I was like, wait a minute, I got a backpack full of rockets. Why the fuck don't I use that? Sure enough.
Yeah, but then it's still on a cooldown. So like a lot of times you'll run into one where you don't have that readied, and so like I had the other day I was playing it and I had just a perfectly timed EMP grenade that I threw, and it knocked the power out of the helicopter, and it fell down to the ground.
Cool. Yeah, so I have to kind of remind myself next time I jump into it, which I don't know when that's going to happen, because Guardians of the Galaxy comes out this week, and I picked up I haven't played it yet, but I picked up like WRC 10 racing game, and you know, man, I'm not gonna have time to like play Far Cry 6. I think this is gonna like get tossed aside, and I'll probably never play it for a while.
This is like every Assassin's Creed game for me, where I know I like playing Assassin's Creed, but like just the time of year it comes out, it's like, man, this is like I'll get to you when you go on sale inevitably in 3 months for like half price.
No kidding. Yeah, I felt that way with Valhalla, man. I love the hell out of the game when that came out, and I still do to a point, but Ubisoft just like puts in filler. You don't need to put in filler.
See, I
just make a good game.
What I played Valhalla, I actually didn't care for, because I played so much Odyssey.
Yeah.
Even leading into Valhalla, because I wanted to finish it, which spoilers, I still haven't finished Odyssey, because too big.
Well, I was gonna say, did you get at least one ending? Because there's
No.
3 stupid endings to this
No,
game.
there's more than that now with the DLC. Like the DLC leads directly
the
into
Atlantis.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
So like
the Atlantis stuff. I watched a video playthrough of the endings, so I know all the endings of Odyssey. So
yeah.
anyway, go on.
Shout out to Hypecaster in the chat. He says $4.99 is the purchase price
For Valhalla right now.
I love Antonio. Antonio, come on the show soon. We love you. Anyways, what were we at?
I was just complaining about Ubisoft, how they just cram in a bunch of like crap you don't need in your games.
Yeah, and I know we talked a lot already about how we feel like they have an identity crisis at this point.
Yeah, because when they came out with what was it, Farpoint or Ghost Recon, whatever, Ghost Recon Fortnite, like
something stupid,
something like that. And it's like, hey, this is what you guys wanted, right? And the entire fan base is like, no, none of us said we wanted this. We've actually vehemently opposed this game. We've told you numerous times. Frontline, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Ubisoft is like, wait a minute.
To be fair,
so you don't want this?
To be fair, I have both of the last 2 Ghost Recon games, and I played like 2 hours of Wildlands, and I wanted to like it, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And then
I loved Wildlands. Breakpoint was like, they made it like impossible to play. Like, I hate it when games make it impossible to play by yourself.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with kind of Back 4 Blood. It makes it almost impossible to play by yourself unless you play it on the easiest difficulty. And Breakpoint's the same way. Like, it makes it impossible to play by yourself. And thankfully, after 2 years of being out, they put out the co-op, the AI co-op players. But
well, let's see what they do with the rumored Splinter Cell game that they're making.
Yeah,
if they turn that into a multiplayer, I'm gonna flip.
I'm actually adding it to the doc right now because I kind of want to talk about that. Of course,
we got too much news.
I know. I mean, look, we don't have to talk about all this. We can kind of just skip around.
We can skim through, I guess. Yeah, but anyway, that's what I've been playing. That's
nice.
Yeah.
No, you know what? This Splinter Cell is going to be a free-to-play battle royale.
I'm out of here.
Man.
Yeah, as far as what I've been playing though, it's really the only thing I've gotten a chance to play was Far Cry 6. So I'm kind of in the same boat. I still think I liked the setting better of Far Cry 5. but with this game they at least do take a lot of the things I loved of Far Cry 5, and like I do really enjoy like the having all the stuff that you can upgrade and much more customization of weapons and things like that in Far Cry 6 that they really didn't have in Far Cry 5. But yeah, otherwise Far Cry 6 is really all I've been playing. But the thing is these kind of games, I never really truly play them the way they're meant to be played. For me, it's just a chance to screw around and just have fun in a world, and that's essentially all I do when I play these kind of games.
I think that's actually how they mean for you to play the game. Like honestly, those open world sandbox games are meant for that kind of gameplay. Like I don't like that. I like to be as direct as possible.
Yeah.
If they'd have turned Far Cry, because the first Far Cry was very linear. If they'd have kind of turned Far Cry back to that to be a little bit more linear gameplay, I probably would love it more. But whatever. I'm in the minority.
And see, like honestly, the only Far Cry story that I really enjoyed enough to actually play through the entire game was Far Cry 5.
Did you like Far Cry 5 better than 6?
Yeah, I mean most I like the setting a little bit more. Like I don't mind the setting in this, but like I tried after finishing 5 though, I tried going to 4, and it's just like so much stuff that was in 4 got improved in 5, like as far as mechanics go, and so it was really hard for me to go back to 4. But I do feel like 6 is a really, really good upgrade to some of those mechanics that were in 5. And like I was saying before you came back there, I like the amount of customization, and but it's a little tedious though, the collecting of stuff to be able to get to the point of making these parts for your guns and things like that I'm not a big fan of. Like, I wish like they would do the whole like Call of Duty kind of thing where once you made a certain sight, that sight could go on any of the guns that you have, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just made them part of those the FND boxes or whatever that you find throughout the map that you
you open up an FND box and it's gunpowder.
Yeah.
Like, really, I killed 20 people to get to this damn box, and you give me gunpowder.
Yeah.
That makes me upset.
Yeah, they could have at least did like where like you could get like a certain sights or certain stocks or certain whatever for your guns in those things, like I think that would have been better than making you just grab all this crap everywhere and then having to build them yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, but they want you to get 80 hours of gameplay because that's what you want out of the game.
It is what it is, but I still do think I like 5 overall a lot more. I just loved the insanely over the top like cult stuff that was going on in 5. Like I just loved all that with the goofiness of the the one chick that would just like appear out of nowhere, and but I do like a lot of the improvements that they've done in 6 though. Like there's definitely a lot more customization, and for better or for worse. It's still makes a lot more stuff that you can do if that's what you care about. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've really been playing recently.
Nice.
Sick.
Nice. For me, it hasn't really been a lot other than Metroid Dread and Tetris Effect, which I don't know how much I have left to say about those games. I was planning to play more games this week, but turns out when you think you have the week off, you really don't have the week off, especially with 2 kids and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't have those things. Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean,
it's definitely a choice.
My wife still does a lot of the work, but they're still here. So
yeah.
Then I was planning on playing some games this weekend, but then I got sick, and sometimes when you're sick, you just don't feel like playing games, which kind of sucks because
you just feel like sleeping.
Yeah. So, which I tried to do, but then my throat was so dry and it started hurting that I kept waking up.
Yeah.
So gross. Sick.
That time of the year.
So yeah, I can feel myself profusely sweating right now as we speak, actually. So, okay, so we're gonna get into the news, but before we get into the real news, just found out that Halo Infinite is going to have a campaign reveal tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Pacific time. So
yeah, I saw that pop through my YouTube.
Yeah, so 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to watch it, that's an odd time to have that, I think. But
yeah, I know we had gotten what was it they were talking about having something, a couple, like, what was it last week that they were talking about?
Yeah. So that's exciting. So we will talk about that more next week because we are recording on Sunday. For those of you who listen on the podcast feeds on Tuesdays, we record the show on Sundays, so we will not have seen it yet. I mean, if either one of you are available at some point, we can kind of do a mini episode if you want, but I mean, we can talk about it next week as well. So we're going to get on to all of this news, which I thought was like, hey, this is a short news week. We'll be able to spend time on a topic. It'll be fun. No, there's like 1,000 news stories this week, which we might not get to everything on the stock because
a lot of these we can like shoot right through. So
yeah.
Because a lot of, especially
like I feel like this first one we talked about before, but it's just Phil Spencer doubling down.
Yeah. He actually had more of something to say. It felt like this time around than like, yeah, we're still looking, whatever. So this first story, Phil Spencer reiterates that Xbox is always looking for new studios to purchase as long as they make sense. There's a tweet going around that says, we're definitely not done. There's no quota, no timeline where I have to go acquire studios by a certain time. But if we find a studio that's a good fit, absolutely. So, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about this before. I wonder if, I mean, I want to know what you guys think about this, but I wonder if this is like, I wonder if the initiative working with Crystal Dynamics is a test bed for this. I wonder if Square is looking to offload their Western division at some point.
We did talk about this before. It would make sense because Square Enix's Japanese market is much bigger than their Western market,
and we know how well they handle their Western studios at this point. I mean,
and I think it remains to be seen. I mean, they could have some really great success with Guardians of the Galaxy. That has been getting some pretty big hype behind it, and that's a Square Enix published title. Obviously, they failed with Avengers, even though there's like a good game in there. It's bogged down by microtransactions and other bullshit. But
if they would have just made an Avengers game in the wake of like a Tomb Raider or something, I feel like it would have been way better.
Yeah, would have been. I mean, what are the biggest complaints about it? No one's complaining about the combat. No one's complaining about the cutscenes or the story or anything like that. It's actually a very interesting story, but everyone's always complaining about all the other you got to go on quests to find scrolls or coins or other bullshit things or whatever. Like, that's what most people are complaining about. If you take all that out of it, there's a good game in there.
The part that ruined it for me was like the loot stuff.
Yeah,
like you could have just made this like a RPG with like a upgrade tree or something, like a skill tree. Like, I don't know. Like I liked the story of the Avengers. I did try to go back and play the Hawkeye stuff, and I was like, man, I just don't want to play this anymore. And I didn't even try the Black Panther stuff that just came out. But I do think Guardians of the Galaxy is the way they should have gone, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be once they see how successful it is. I mean, I'm really putting my chips in it for it to be a success.
Yeah,
once they see that works, that's when I think maybe they'll. It's funny because there's a lot of these game developers that think like multiplayer and like big large ecosystems are the way to go, but everybody tried and true single player games are what people kind of want more sometimes.
Well, everybody either wants a piece of the Destiny pie or everybody wants a piece of the Fortnite pie, right? And there's only so much room to go around, right? I think especially with the way that Avengers went, right? The closest success that anybody's had to Destiny was probably the Division, right? Like that first game.
Very short time.
Yeah.
Very short time because Destiny 2 or Division 2 kind of, that lost players within the first couple months.
Yeah, I remember there was that rumor that they were going to cancel all the bonus content for that and stuff, and then they doubled down and like, no, we're going to at least finish this War Zone of New York or whatever expansion, and now they're making the free to play one, which is also coming. God, Ubisoft has a ton of free-to-play games coming. That's like really questionable.
Because that's gonna make them more money.
Yeah. See,
Is it though? Because they put out Hyperscape and that game died on the vine. Like nobody talked about it after that initial beta that all the streamers were playing.
That's true. Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing is like they, like a lot of these companies like that have been doing this like multiplayer online always crap for so long that like now if they do release like a single player game and it does like really really well that isn't plagued with all that nonsense, like I would hope that they would see that like this did really well, like okay, maybe we do need to at least have a whole section of our company that's working on making these kind of games as well.
See, and that's the problem, because you could make a single player game, but then there's always that fear it's going to turn into the next Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk is that full-fledged single player that they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on, and it came out to a colossal failure. They say it made money for them on paper, but we all know that the ecosystem doesn't treat it that way. Like, that game is universally panned. Unless you're a PC owner.
The problem is the games are way too expensive to make now. And the only way to make your money back is to try to hit one of these, always online things and nickel and dime everybody. Or be a first party studio, suck it up and make your 30% off of every other game sold on your store. That's like, I mean, that's what it feels
going
like.
Back to the original story, before we get way too sidetracked, who do you think they would? Are you thinking it's going to be a Square Enix studio that they'll pick up?
I think they'll try to. I think they'll try to purchase Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal.
Yeah, it would be cool to see another Deus Ex.
Yeah,
it really would.
Because I
think Microsoft having their back, I think, would be huge.
Yeah, because then they wouldn't, if the game's coming to Game Pass, they wouldn't have to worry about budget or time or anything. Like they could just make the game they want to make, however big or however small, and they could just make it.
And I think that that's part of going back to our initial conversation is that you have a big publishing arm like Microsoft that says like make the game that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if they haven't purchased them outright yet because of the publishing deal they have for Avengers and the Marvel deal and Guardians. Like, I wonder if that's like the only reason why they haven't done it yet.
Well, my thing too is I wonder like would Microsoft also though try to, if they did that, like try to make some kind of deal to buy like the Tomb Raider.
Well, I mean,
they already tried that.
I feel like they would have to, right? Like, what's a Japanese studio gonna do with Tomb Raider, right? I mean, no offense, but like their Japanese studios are making JRPGs and like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, smaller games like Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy and stuff. Like, what are they gonna do with Tomb Raider in that scenario, right?
Wow.
It looks great.
I love the name of that game. I'm sorry.
That game looks great, but the stupid name.
It's a stupid Triangle Strategy. Wow.
But like, what are those studios going to do with the Tomb Raider franchise? Like, I feel like these studios are worth more with the IP than, because I feel like Square would definitely get more money if they sold the IP with these studios.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's my take. But I mean, do you think Microsoft's trying to overachieve here by purchasing more studios?
I think the comment of them saying there's no quota and no timeline. So I think they basically pumped the brakes to say, okay, all right, let's chill out a bit. Let's kind of see what these studios that we've acquired have already done, but then like keep our ears open just in case if something else kind of comes through the cracks, or we approach some other studio and we have a good relationship with, and then maybe it kind of organically comes to pass where okay, we'll pick you up as a kind of like an in-house studio. So I don't think we're going to see anything announced probably for a very long time. Like I said, I really don't think it's going to be happening like over the horizon, like within the next month or two, that they're going to come out to say like, "Hey, we just picked up Crystal Dynamics," you know.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely they've been very strategic about like who they pick and choose, and like like he kind of said, there's got to be a reason for it, and
Especially
I think
now.
like because yeah, like Microsoft has the kind of money where they could just literally go out and just buy whatever, but that's not really what it's about for them. They know that they have needs and things that they're lacking in, and if they can, find something that can kind of fill that position and it makes sense for them, they'll do it. But like, yeah, I mean, they've kind of, even though they have money, they're not, they're not just trying to throw it everywhere
Right.
like
Yeah,
like they could. They definitely could do that, but
Yeah.
Okay, we were supposed to go through these news stories quicker.
I know. Speaking of,
It never happens with us. God.
I mean, I think these first few we can deep dive, but there's some on here we can just skim through, right? So, speaking of on the horizon, spoilers, guys. Digital Foundry thinks that Forza Horizon 5 looks great on Xbox Series X.
Listen, I didn't need Digital Foundry to tell me that.
I mean,
like seeing those E3 gameplay trailers, dude. Okay, thanks Digital Foundry for doing what you're doing, but I didn't need to be told that.
all I'm saying is that there's this orange car that falls out of the back of an airplane, and you just start driving, which is really cool. That's all I'm saying. I'm really excited for Forza Horizon, guys. I don't really have a lot to say about it anymore, really. I'm just really excited to play this game. It's been a while since I have been into a racing game. Horizon is usually the game that I'm aim for. I think this one looks awesome.
Oh yeah, just a level of polish and detail in the environments and stuff. Because I tend to like, especially in the Horizon games, because there's always so much to look at and so much detail in the environments that I tend to waver in like what I'm looking at and like, oh man, look at that shit. Look at that sunlight over there. That's fucking beautiful, man. Like, and then all of a sudden, like, look at the mountains up there. Wow, look at that. And then I'm like crashing into things.
There's a volcano with lava that you can race by.
Well, all of a sudden you fall into the lava because you're looking at it.
Well, like what these games always do, like great that has the whole online thing, but you don't technically need to be playing multiplayer. Is I love when games are really good about doing the competition with friends stuff. Like the more friends you have playing these games, the more fun it is to try to compete. Because
they still do that thing where like they try to emulate the way your friends drive, right? And even if your friends aren't online,
cars.
Yeah. Gosh, remember all these dumb names we thought were stupid, but now they make so much sense. Drivatars was one of them. It was definitely one of them.
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. Thankfully, you can actually turn that feature off.
Yeah.
So, because I had that string in Forza Motorsport. I forget which one, but a lot of my friends drive like assholes.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure it was like sure it was like 5. Whatever the first one for Xbox One was.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, the first or second one. But yeah, I remember just like all my friends drive like jerks, and that showed up in my tournaments and my cups that I would participate in. And I'd be like, man, this is stupid. So once I turned that feature off and just played as the computer AI, it improved the gameplay dramatically. So
yeah.
Well, I'm more so talking about like where you can try to beat people's like best times, or like like the little side things where you can kind of compete with your friends. Like me and Ed for a little while there on Horizon 4, I think it was, or 3, where we're constantly trying to beat each other's times in certain things. And like that's what I loved about like the Trials games, is like trying to beat friends. The more friends I had playing those games, the more fun it was to try to compete with some of those times and stuff like that.
Yeah, so going back to kind of like what Digital Foundry said, they've kind of obviously they recommend. Typically, it's hard to recommend anything other than 60 frames per second or better. But the sense is that Playground Games has finally honed the 30 frames a second quality mode to the point where it's actually very different to choose between the two. So, sometimes you could definitely tell the difference. Like you could see the quality is bumped high, but the frame rate is very low. 30 frames a second to accommodate that quality.
Right, because you like for Forza Horizon 4, you would like if you were taking screenshots or whatever, you definitely bump it up to what is it? Quality mode,
yeah, high quality,
and you would get like all of the textures and everything, and then you would just race on performance mode, and which still look great, but it just like there's a different quality of the graphics, but the 60 frames is so much nicer. But like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, but that's fine. That all kind of like ties into it because, like a lot of times with 30 frames a second, like the frame rate will kind of dip because the quality's tried to load in, the textures are trying to load in. Whereas 60 frames a second, you don't notice the lower texture resolution because you're flying at such like a kind of like a good clip. But they kind of said it's remarkable that both high performance and both high quality modes in this game are actually pretty stellar. So whatever you prefer, if you prefer good resolution or just good frame rate, I think you're going to have a great gameplay experience regardless.
Yeah.
Well, and if your monitor TV supports the variable refresh rate stuff, like that always helps too. So
yeah, I imagine this is going to be 120 frames a second right out the gate.
I would imagine there's probably going to have a version of it, that runs that.
Yeah, because this article on Pure Xbox doesn't really say if it does or not, but it's okay.
I think they said it could run at 1080p and 120.
Yeah.
And then it's like 1440p at 60 and then 4K at 30, I think is what they said originally.
I'm excited for this.
I'm also excited. Stoy, we're going to have a lot to talk about next week.
Yeah, we are, man.
Because I'm going to play this. I want to play Guardians. It's going to be a good time.
Well, this game doesn't come out for another couple weeks, so you'll at least have a good contingent of time to play Guardians. But
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But, I keep getting.
What is it? The 18th that it comes out?
November 9th.
Or 9th. Yeah, 9th.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Speaking of games that aren't coming out for a while, our next story is from Video Games Chronicle. A decade later, Ubisoft has finally greenlit a new Splinter Cell, sources claim. There's not really a lot of info here. It's just kind of, going through what Splinter Cell is. But what do you guys want from a new Splinter Cell game? That's exciting, I think, to some people, right? You guys play Blacklist at all?
Yeah, I like Blacklist.
I played it on the Wii U.
It kind of rebooted the franchise a little bit because like they saw Sam Fisher as kind of like the not evolving, just Sam Fisher is always Sam Fisher.
Yeah.
And that's how they wanted to treat it because like we saw Sam Fisher grow between like the first three and then Splinter Cell Conviction, where he's like kind of like the grizzled old guy that just kind of is just like the bitter old man kind of thing, to where Blacklist kind of rebooted it to be like, okay, let's make him a little bit younger and a little bit fresher take on the whole story thing. But
you think this is a reboot or you think this is a continuation?
I think this should be a reboot. I mean, if enough time has gone by, there's a good contingent of people that don't know what the hell Splinter Cell is.
I know, because it's been when did Blacklist come out? 2013, I want to say.
It over 10 years ago. I would imagine.
Because we didn't have one. We didn't have a new one during the Xbox One at all.
No, right? But it came out. It came out the year that those consoles came out, because I bought it on the Wii U.
I bought it on the Wii U too, and it came out. Yeah, it did come out 2013.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So
almost 10 years old.
Yeah. So, man, if they're gonna reboot it, I almost feel like they should almost go like the Batman Beyond route of this, where like he's like now the leader, or Sam Fisher's now the leader of like the third echelon, or like I don't want to say a rogue group, but like a break-off group, and he's training his own agents to do these special ops, missions and stuff, and maybe you take on a new character almost.
You know what? It's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to play. Okay, or maybe if we have some sort of Sam Fisher like character. So, like, say for example, we could go with that story to say like, okay, Sam Fisher is the leader of the third echelon, but I don't want to play as a rookie agent.
Yeah.
I want to play as someone who is experienced, who's grizzled. I don't want to have to go through the growing pains of like, oh, it's a coming of age story of a super spy, whatever. Like, I just want to play as an expert right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad story premise, what you said, Corey, but I think I'm kind of like done with that whole storyline of just like, well, you're playing as a rogue agent trying to learn the ropes.
Yeah. Well,
I'd like it to be somewhat similar to, like, not quite Hitman, because Hitman's a different thing. It doesn't fully fit in that kind of game type, because you still gotta have like reason for the high tech, gadgets and all that stuff that like those kinds of things that those games are kind of known for. It's more of like a 007 kind of thing than a Hitman thing.
yeah.
But I would like it to be a little bit more sandboxy, like where like more, almost more like a Metal Gear Solid game.
I don't agree with either of you people.
Here's what
okay,
here's
though.
what Hypecaster says in the chat. Let's see if Stoy likes this one. Sam Fisher should be the guy in the chair. Have him be old AF and take a bullet. Then he trains his stepdaughter. Boom, gold.
I can see that. He does have a daughter. Maybe she gets in the spy game. Honestly, that would be kind of unique. I think that would be very groundbreaking. Have it be a female agent.
Yeah.
Or he puts his brain in a robot body.
Jesse, you're the only one laughing here.
Jesse, you're fired.
Jesse, you're done.
Bye. It was fun.
Good. Now we don't have to go over this Ghostbusters story. Yeah. I mean, I'm not super ingrained in Splinter Cell. I think it would be neat to bring it back in a way that's that keeps Sam Fisher around at least. Like I feel like he's iconic enough. It's not like Assassin's Creed where you can change the protagonist every time and be like, "Whoa, this is it now," But
yeah.
Well, I mean, Halo Infinite. Going back to the Halo universe, it's like every time they've tried to, put in new characters or new lead characters, they've, the fan base is not, embraced it enough.
Yeah.
So now where it's like Halo has to be synonymous with Master Chief, and it always has to be that way. I mean, it sucks because you can make spin-off titles. So like, but if you want to make a mainline Splinter Cell game, it almost has to be Sam Fisher. Like it just has to be. So I would see more of a reboot.
Yeah. There have been very few franchises that have made the character transition and made it well. Yeah. Like, I would argue Gears did it pretty well, but also Marcus is still involved. So like, I don't know how,
Well, the Resident Evil games do that every now and then. Like, obviously, it's like you play as a different character in most every game. I think Resident Evil 7 was like the biggest jump because it introduced a whole new character instead of just rehashing one of the older ones.
Yeah.
I think as long as you do a handing of the torch like thing well, it works. But yeah, you've got to have a good story plot.
Yeah.
Kind of leading that way.
It's almost like if you were playing Super Mario Brothers, but you weren't playing as Mario, you were playing some guys like Carlos.
Super Carlos Brothers?
Yeah. He's like
Mario's third cousin.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else have
anything
anything to say?
Years in prison.
Anybody have anything else to say about we know the answer to Mario is missing now. Carlos is behind it.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else to say about Splinter Cell before we move on?
No.
All
right, moving on. This one will probably be a quick one because I have zero interest in this. But Jesse, this one was added specifically for you. So I know how big of a Ghostbusters fan you are. Nobody's really talking about this. Ghostbusters is the next game from the Friday the 13th devs. It was leaked on a podcast where he wasn't really supposed to say anything about it, and it just leaked. Ilphonic is the developer. Ghostbusters as I guess would be what, a 4 or 5v1 type game, the way that Friday the 13th and Predator were.
That's the thing, is like, I kind of hope this would be more like Back for Blood, like where you can do the you play with friends online type of thing, but you have like an actual story plot that you're going through, like Back for Blood, and you have ghosts and all that stuff that are kind of coming at you, and you've got to work together to try to clear the hordes of ghosts and stuff out as you're progressing through the story. Like, that's kind of what I hope it ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I mean, the people who are doing it, that's not what they're known for. They're known for doing the 4v1 or whatever.
Yeah. I think it would be interesting for a
so,
studio like this to take a different direction, though. Right? I mean, we've been seeing studios change directions a lot recently, right? Like Guerrilla from Killzone to Horizon, or just the way that the Zelda team transitioned from old school Zelda to Breath of the Wild, right? Like, I mean, studios have been doing this, and I don't think it's as hard for a smaller studio to make that transition as say a bigger AAA studio. So maybe they could go that way.
Well, and I mean, it's not, if you think about it, it's not really that much of a change from what they're used to doing. I know, like, Evolve, that game never really went very far, but that was a really, really cool, like, that world and like what they did in that game was really cool, but it just didn't quite hit the mark. And to me, like, I'm too worried that if they did try doing that with Ghostbusters, that it would end up having that same kind of fate.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of hoping that they focus more on a story and letting you play Ghostbusters with your friends, I think, is the safest way to go. But I also think that that's kind of what you need for that franchise, is just something where you're doing a story and you can do it with friends, and and just kind of play at your leisure. I was excited and worried at the same time when they announced this, because, like, I remember the last Ghostbuster game they made. It was all right, but it still was, there was still some stuff about it that just, I think it was lacking. Like, I do. Are you talking about the top?
Are you talking about the top-down one that they did, or are you talking about the one that came out?
The first person. The one that the third person or whatever.
Oh, the one that was kind of like
recently.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that one, they did a really good job with the story wise. It was an actual canon to the original movies, I should say. But it lacked some of that the fun, like, with friends type stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess we'll see if it ends up being true. That's all I can really honestly say at this point, is we'll see. But I do hope that they figure it out, because we really haven't had a really, really good Ghostbuster game yet. So,
Stoy, you have anything to say about this?
Ghostbusters is a dead franchise and needs to stay dead.
Hmm.
Listen, I love the Ghostbusters franchise. I love the first two movies.
Yeah.
I grew up watching them, loved them to death. I had all the figures. Peter Venkman naturally is my favorite Ghostbuster. I don't, you can imagine why, but it's one of those things that the Ghostbusters was a product of the 80s and early 90s.
Mhm.
And if you try to kind of take that magic to the current generation now, it's not going to translate. It's not going to, new audiences are not going to latch on to this. This is something for us.
You don't think that new movie is going to do anything for this?
The new movie is going to be doing good, but compare that movie to the original too. It's widely different. I mean, the new Ghostbusters movie is going to appeal to those Stranger Things audience, and that's where Ghostbusters should go. So if they're going to make a new Ghostbusters game, they need to kind of abandon that old Ghostbusters look and style of it and adopt this new generation of Ghostbusters fans. So Hypecaster's mad at me. I'm sorry, Hypecaster.
I see him.
Well, so this is the thing, like there is so, like, I don't know if they consider it canon. I personally, like, I just love Ghostbusters in general, so like anything,
I love it too. Like I said, I love it too, but it needs to stay in that era. It needs to stay in that era, and that's the reason why we haven't seen anything new from the Back to the Future franchise. I love to death the Back to the Future franchise. It doesn't need to come back. It doesn't. It needs to stay where it is.
I think it's kind of, though, that the same thing that like Star Wars has run into, where I think it does fine if you actually move forward and you abandon the old characters and you make new characters. Like, they had such a great cast in the Extreme Ghostbusters cartoon, like that cast that they had in that new version. They had a girl in it that was really, like, the girl character was actually super interesting, and like it was some of the old original characters, were helping these new kids out of college, become the new, take the place of the originals. And I think if they would have stuck with that moving forward into the movies and actually went with the Extreme Ghostbuster route, I think it would have been we would have already been to a point of where we would have been getting like good movies and have, good stuff that's new, that's abandoned, like not completely, but like Gears of War has kind of been that passing of the torch, and we'd be able to be in a whole, new era with new characters, and if they did it right, I would still enjoy the movies and still enjoy it, even though it's not the original characters that I grew up with. Because I know I'm rare in that sense that I don't mind change when it comes to things sometimes, as long as it's done right. But like, I don't know, like I've been wanting new characters for the Ghostbusters for a long time now. Like, I'm like Star Wars, I'm done with the old characters. Those movies were great, and they did what they needed to do, but I'm ready for a new group of characters and to learn about
one. It was an all-female Ghostbusters team. How'd you like that one?
I honestly, I didn't mind it as much as, like I honestly didn't mind that movie. I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people made it seem. But I also liked a lot of the women that were playing the characters, like comedian wise. Like I think a lot of them were funny, so it worked well enough for me. Like, like, yeah, it was a little too comedy versus the sci-fi for me, but it's still in my opinion wasn't awful. It wasn't the best thing ever either, but it just was fine. But
I'm gonna let you all in on a little secret. I've never seen Ghostbusters, any of them.
I figured that.
I mean, we've talked about that.
This
Jesse.
is Corey. Well, this is you we're talking about. There's certain things that, I mean, like Kayla from Bad Bitches, she like never watches anything either. Like, there's just some people who just, I mean, that's just not their thing. Like I'm getting more and more that way though now, where TV shows are so good nowadays that I don't even care about. I don't pay attention to movies.
Yeah.
Because like the shows are just so much better.
Yeah, I mean, well, we can talk about it later. I saw the new 007 movie last week. It was like really refreshing to watch something that wasn't like superheroes or like, I get what you would say, like nerd culture-y type stuff, which don't get me wrong, I like all that stuff. It's just like, it's really refreshing to see this and not see people just crushing everybody's dreams from the 1980s in one tweet, like it was. So
yeah.
Man, Hypecaster's really mad at me now.
Yeah, he's mad at both of us. But no, like I said, I mean, just to put this nail in the coffin. I mean, whatever. I already said my piece. Never mind. Let's just move on.
Moving on. Speaking of nails in the coffin, so the next few stories we're just going to blow through because, well, there's not really much to say. Activision Blizzard has renamed Overwatch's Mccree character to Cole Cassidy. The official tweet says, the first thing a renegade loses is their name, and this one gave up his a long time ago. Running from his past meant running from himself, and each passing year only widened the divide between who he had been and what he had become. But in every cowboy's life, there comes a time when he has to stop and make a stand. To make this new Overwatch better, to make things right, he had to be honest with his team and himself. The cowboy he was rode into the sunset, and Cole Cassidy faced the world at dawn. So, I mean, I know this Activision Blizzard lawsuit stuff is still going on, and I know like the team can only do so much, right? I think this was probably an important change. I know the internet's probably going to rip it apart because, just take him out of the game or, whatever. But I think this is something that had to be done, and I think that they made the right choice.
Listen, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you do. So, like, it's just whatever. This is the best outcome.
Yeah.
This is the best thing that needed to get done because there's probably a lot of people that use this character. So if you'd have just blatantly took him out of a game because he was named after an ex studio developer, like, that would have pissed off people. So whatever.
Yeah.
Deal with the name change. Get over it. You'll go to sleep like a normal human being tonight.
Yeah. And we know that the only people who are gonna make a big deal about it are people who don't even play the game anyways.
A small minority. Yes, but very vocal minority. But they can go jump up, take a long walk off a short pier.
Yeah, and like I said, they probably stopped playing the game years ago anyways. So
who cares?
They're just complaining. They're just complaining because they want to complain. That's all.
Whatever. Let them.
So good on them. I hope that this change leads to bigger changes at that studio.
Yes.
I mean, I know they have a long road ahead of them, but this was a good first step, I feel like. So
20 people just got canned recently.
Yeah.
So that was the other news, that 20 people just conveniently lost their jobs in a restructuring process. So good.
That's one way to say it.
Change is happening.
Yeah.
So.
GTA, the remastered definitive edition, is coming on November 11th. I know a lot of people were like, oh, what's happening? What are we, we haven't seen screenshots. We haven't seen this game running or anything. And they're like, fine, we'll drop a trailer and we'll show you everything that's changed. And they did one of those swipe across things. Besides the character models, I think it looks really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is what you want.
It's going to have the same janky animation, but still, it's going to look good during the janky animation.
Yeah. I mean, I think the lighting looks great. The character models, like, it just looks cartoony and dumb, which I think is what these games need to be at this point. So, yeah, looks good. I will probably check them out at some point. It is worth noting that the remastered version of San Andreas is coming to Game Pass. So, if you want to try it before you buy it, it is coming to Game Pass.
I just want to get back into Vice City again because that was I loved that game.
Yeah, that they didn't really say how much it was going to cost, did they?
$60.
Is it 60? Okay.
Yeah, it's $60 for the whole
collection.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
not bad.
I mean, $20 a game. It's not terrible.
No.
I
especially
think
for these.
Good.
So
yeah,
I can,
and I believe it's got all the like extra like stuff that came out and all that included. So
yeah,
because I think some of these had expansions and stuff.
I don't know.
No, because they were on. They were on
PlayStation 2, so they never really. No. There was never really an ecosystem for that.
There's also another article that said they're removing all the Confederate flag usage in the game. So.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff. It's like, don't take it out, just leave it. Jeez, It's not like you're glorifying it. Obviously, the Confederate flag usage in it was used as a joke. They were painted as a bunch of hillbilly redneck dipshits.
Yeah,
just don't remove it. It's just, I don't know. It seems petty. Like, I don't care ultimately in the end, but it's like, I don't know. They're doing that to win points with the woke crowd, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. These games, I mean, I think people too have to realize these are games from a time and place too, right? They're not going to go back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Playing this game with Confederate flags isn't going to make you a Confederate person.
Well, and it's like, Wolfenstein. Like, I mean,
Well, it's like, I mean, it's similar to what they did in Wolfenstein in Germany, though, right? They removed all the swastikas and all the references to Nazis and Hitler and stuff, right? They just called him the Chancellor.
Well, that's different. That's a literal law in Germany that you're not supposed to display any signs of the swastika or any Nazi paraphernalia.
I know.
Like, even just denying the Holocaust in Germany is a federal crime. Like, you could go to prison for going around and saying that. So
I know. I'm just
rightfully so.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that was a terrible comparison. That's my fault then. Sorry.
But you're right. It is kind of similar in that, to where it's like you're not necessarily trying to, like, I mean, if the game was pro-Confederacy, that's one thing. But like, we're doing is showcasing, showcasing a flag in a kind of like a non-meaningful manner. I don't know. Anyway,
looks cool.
Whatever.
I'll check out Vice City. I like the soundtrack.
Yes.
All right, a few more quick ones. Project Shaolin. Xbox may be working on a Wu-Tang themed action RPG led by Brass Lion Entertainment. Jesse, you brought this to our attention. I don't. What? What is this?
I think the thing is like, like obviously with Wu-Tang Clan, they're like super into the whole like, ancient like fighting and, martial arts type stuff. So like, like this isn't the first time that they've been the focus of a game or whatever. And honestly, I would like to just see more of this kind of stuff where you get the, like just the weird collaborations with like bands or IP that, like that you normally wouldn't see in games or whatever. Cause like, like the Aerosmith game that we got a long time ago and stuff like that. Like it wasn't maybe like the biggest thing or lighting the world on fire, but there was some just weird, interesting, kind of cool things. And, it's super easy and safe to just like have like a rock band or something and then have their music in the game. But
Right.
to actually do something where you're bringing a band or something into a game in a different way.
Right.
Like I kind of miss that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the just goofy, weird mixes.
Yeah. So for those who don't know who Brass Lion is, it is a new studio that will focus on amplifying marginalized voices in gaming. The studio was co-founded by Bryna Dabby Smith, who worked on Sleeping Dogs, Rashad Reddick, who worked on Skyrim and Fallout, as well as Manveer Air, who worked on Mass Effect and Singularity, the first-person shooter from EA. So seems
No.
like what?
No, it was from Activision.
Activision, was it?
Singularity was probably the most severely underrated first-person shooters of our time.
Was it
It got a
Activision
bad-
though? Are you
Yes,
sure it was Activision?
And yeah, it was Activision, and it was published. It was developed by Raven Software.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes. Don't you question my knowledge on Singularity, okay?
Hey, Singularity
do
was developed by Activision and Raven Software. Stoy.
Which is
You're welcome.
which is a Wisconsin-based.
Yeah.
Then what was
Madison-based
the first person
Yes.
shooter that EA developed that was similar but not this, I guess? I don't know. You know what? I was wrong. I'm sorry, internet.
I like this. I like this this mission because, admittedly, Black culture isn't necessarily represented very well in RPGs. There's Black characters. I mean, and obviously you can customize your characters to be Black, and like I said, but like the culture, like their culture in and of itself isn't necessarily represented highly. So I see this as a good step
Mm-hmm.
in video games to be more inclusive, kind of like what their mission is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, like the accolades and stuff of other previous games that these people have worked on. I mean, are like I jokingly like made fun of Sleeping Dogs, like but
that's
playing
another
that
underrated game,
it,
man.
It was once you unlocked like all the abilities and the full potential of the things you could do of your character in that game, it was a really good game. And yeah, like something like that mixed with Wu-Tang, like I could definitely see that. That would be a lot of fun.
Like, I mean, we're not going to be seeing like RZA or Redman running through a Skyrim-like universe. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It'd be
You
kinda
could.
interesting,
You don't
but,
know.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe a collab game with Meth Man and Redman. Who knows?
Hmm.
The Redman wasn't a original Wu-Tang member. I don't think.
No, Redman was just friends with Method Man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that was just kind of I think later on he kind of joined because obviously we've lost a couple of them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But
Old DB, old dirty bastard.
Yeah.
Poor old dirty bastard.
Um,
Anyway.
yeah, I loved him. He's just so goofy.
Speaking of old dirty bastards, Microsoft's about to ask you for more money for these what are these memory units?
Too much money.
No, just kidding. They're not bastards. These just cost a lot of money. The expansion cards for Xbox Series S and S are getting two new what do you call it?
Internal memory.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
512 gigs and 2 terabyte variations. The 512 gigabyte version will be priced at $139.99 USD and will launch in November. And the 2 terabyte version will launch in early December at $399.99. Pre-order start in November. So, Stoy and I were joking earlier. We were like, we might as well just buy another Series X for the storage space.
Yeah, jeez.
So,
well,
it's like you go to install a new game. Oh, you run out of memory. Oh, I'll just go to my other Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is like always what happens though. Like, like I remember when the like the terabyte of just regular hard drive, like was brand new, and it,
it was
like
cheaper than this.
they were super expensive though. Like
Cheaper still than this. Jeez.
when it was hard to come by. And these, in like the tech in this is a lot more complex than any of the other
Absolutely.
stuff. I mean, I'm not disagreeing that it's way too expensive, but at the same time, it's like I don't feel like these are something that you need quite yet. I don't know.
I mean, I would like to have something like this. I would like to have something like this, but because I keep deleting games and reinstalling games, and I keep doing that back and forth because I play a lot of games. I buy a lot of games, and it's just whatever. It's just how it is. But so I would love to have extra memory. I'm not going to pay $400 for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I have the 1 terabyte one, and I think that's good enough for me right now. I would have liked the 2 terabyte one, but at $400, that's just Adam. It's out of my price range right now. Sorry, I would rather buy like 5 or 6 games for that price.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And and the thing is like soon streaming the games through the cloud, is if you want to play games instantly without having to download them, doing that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the thing.
Jesse's still living
there's
that dream.
Options. At least there's still options.
Look, I just made the switch to digital media like a year ago. I'm not ready for the cloud stuff, even though I'm about ready to go work for an IT company that kind of almost specializes in cloud stuff. But you know what? I'm not ready. Story of my life.
You're gonna be paid to get your head in the cloud.
All right, last news story here real quick. There's the update that brings the 4K dashboard, night mode, and quick settings menu to Xbox is up now. So if you have a 4K TV, you can now look at your menu. Very crisp. It's crispier. Very crispier.
Yeah.
That was terrible way of saying that.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain is still like real foggy from all this medicine and whatever. I've been trying to keep it together, guys, and it's not working.
You're doing great.
Also, this is the first caffeine I've had in 3 days, so
nice. But yeah, they also introduced night mode. And we talked about this during the accessibility episode, where you can actually change the resolution and the color scheme and blue light filters. So like if you play in the dark, like at night mode, like I don't know, you got a baby that's trying to sleep on your lap, but you still want to play games while the baby's sleeping, and you want the lights off, like So neat. Yeah.
All right.
So it can also be timed. The night mode. You can time it to like automatically turn on at 8 or 9 o'clock, whatever. So
I'm glad Stoy read the article.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Yeah. So well, because like this was part of what we talked about with the accessibility features that Xbox has.
Right.
We talked about this a few weeks ago, so it's just kind of like carries over and whatever. So.
Right.
So and thankfully they put settings in the quick menu option now. Jesus, that was the one thing that was like a pain in the ass to try to access, to try to flick through like 5 or 6 different menu screens just to get the settings. Now it's in the quick menu. Thank God.
Yeah.
It's a good change that needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's time for our quick segment here of Pass It On. What's coming to Game Pass this week? Stoy, do you know what's coming to Game Pass this week?
Well, you know what came out last week and that just kind of dropped was Dragon Ball FighterZ. So if you're a Dragon Ball fan, and this is probably one of the better fighting games out there right now. So Dragon Ball FighterZ is out on the cloud and console. That came out on the 21st of October. So also that came out on October 21st was Echo Generation. Apparently this is a gang game with monsters and spooky mysteries. I don't know.
That's a great description of the game.
Yeah, sure. This came out on the cloud console and PC last week. And then Everspace 2. It's a spaceship shooter game that's like very popular. There's a game preview or a demo out of the PC right now. So.
Yeah, the first one was on Game Pass. I think Jesse, you and I played it for What's This on Game Pass at one point.
Yeah,
when we were doing that, which I would like to get back to at some point. But Yeah, that game was fun. I know it's procedurally generated, which is why I was like, I'm out. Roguelike space shooter.
Yeah, nah, that's a no for me, dog.
Yeah.
But it looks like it looks kind of interesting. So
it was fun. It was fun. I wish they would have just made it a game instead of a oh, you died, let's redo everything.
Well, we're still waiting on Star Citizen to come out with a meaningful full game, so I think that's gonna scratch your itch there whenever that comes out. Age of Empires, we all know, is coming out at the end of the month, October 28th. That's going to be on the PC only. Alan Wake's American Nightmare is actually coming out on the 28th as well. It's not the full Alan Wake game, but Alan Wake's American Nightmare was kind of like a it wasn't like the horror, like survival horror elements of the original game. This was kind of more of like a horror mode, kind of, where it's like you got procedurally generated spawning enemies coming in, and yeah.
So you said the word that ruins it all for me.
I know.
Generated.
It's not like randomized, but I guess it's like they just generate enemies with bigger weapons and challenging game modes. So I didn't much care for this, but I suppose if you want to get into the Alan Wake universe, but you're more action oriented, this is a good stepping stone.
Nice.
So
nice.
We got the game. We got the game Backbone coming out on the 28th as well. Apparently, this is a post-noir adventure, and it's a narratively driven game. But I'm reading this description on Xbox Wire, and it's not really telling me anything about the game. It's got stunning visuals, an evocative soundtrack, and a daring narrative, bringing a dystopian Vancouver inhabited by animals to life in this highly anticipated post-noir adventure.
Yeah, don't you play as like a raccoon or something? I forget. Because I remember when this game.
He is a raccoon, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when this game got announced, like a while back. It looked really interesting. It's your like side-scrolling kind of typical like.
Okay, I think I vaguely remember now. So if you like fishing and you like video games, we got the game for you. Bassmaster Fishing 2022 is coming out on the 20th as well. So and that's a day one release in Game Pass.
I was gonna say Breath of the Wild too, but
you know what? I don't like fishing. I don't like fishing in my games. So get them out of my games. So there's an action platformer roguelike game. Don't you just love games like that? Called Non-Guns, the Doppelganger Edition. So it's basically each run sees you parting from a black and white graveyard to an ever-changing gothic dungeon full of nightmares fleshed out of human viscera. Surviving not only requires skill but style.
Spoopy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's mostly action. Sounds like. And then you got the Forgotten City that comes out on the 28th as well. It's basically traveling, and this game has been out, but it's you're basically reliving the final days of a cursed Roman city, where if one person sins, everyone dies. So it's basically like a mystery, moral choice type narrative game.
Yeah. Okay. I remember hearing about this.
And one. It's like there's like like a time loop exploitation here. I don't know much about it, but
don't sin or you're dead.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like trying to decipher, the sins of the people around you. So, so that a lot of these are coming out of the 28th. So check your Game Pass library on the 28th. There's going to be a lot of drops that day. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of everything there. So that should
anyway, that's what's coming out for Game Pass.
Nice.
Sick. All right, guys, let's get into our main topic of the show. Is there a name for that topic of the show? Do we?
Show.
It's called Topic of the Show.
We need a better name for that. We'll figure it out. We got time. There's a story floating around that Xbox internally wants to deliver AAA experiences along the lines of Sony's games. I wanted to ask you guys, what franchise would provide that for Xbox, or would a new franchise be better? You guys look,
Honestly,
you guys look stumped.
well, the thing is like I mean, there's a lack of number of titles compared to Sony. You know, like as of now, I mean that's going to change here with all the teams that they've acquired, and you know the big games that they're working on that we aren't quite ready yet. But like as far as like Gears of War, like, and we'll see what Halo Infinite turns out to be, but like Gears of War, the last Gears of War, in my opinion, is so much better than any of the previous ones. Like I really think that they stepped that franchise up in a big way with the last one, to the point of where it is like a heavy hitter as far as narrative and like the way that the game looks and the way that it plays. And like I think that game is nearly flawless in my opinion. And so I don't know, I think they do have some of those games already, but it's just the lack of the amount for now, I think, is honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
They have a ton in their back catalog.
They do.
That they could just start pulling. You know, they could bring those back. Like I still want the Sunset Overdrive to turn into a franchise. I want that to become a big mainstay from, and I know they buy the rights from Insomniac, so it's like they got that Microsoft money to say, hey, we're just going to take this back and we're going to make a sequel of it, or we're going to make it, a continuation of some sort. So
yeah,
I would love for that. I would love for that to be brought back and into AAA form.
Yeah. I just feel like Xbox is built differently than Sony, and I don't like, maybe you want that one franchise that competes on that level, but I don't like, to me, they have Indiana Jones, which is going to be their Uncharted, right? They have that. I don't personally care for games like The Last of Us, or I mean, God of War was good. I mean, it was great, but I don't know. I don't need that from Xbox, like I mean, sure, it'd be nice to have something to point to and say, hey, all the people who say Xbox doesn't have games, well, check this out. But like Jesse said, I think Gears 5 is like it's one of their best attempts at doing that. It's, I mean, it's not quite on that level, right? But it was a massive step forward in terms of storytelling. I thought Perfect Dark was going to be that, to be honest with you, until they showed that it was going to be first person, and now they're working with Crystal Dynamics, and it still might be something really cool and awesome, but it's not going to be like, The Last of Us, dark, gritty, whatever, which I don't play games for that, like I don't need dark, gritty, over the shoulder crap, I mean, I feel like Indiana Jones is going to be their Uncharted. I feel like Hellblade could potentially be their almost like Horizon, and I'm not just saying that because the characters look similar. I'm saying that because like I feel like with a Microsoft budget, Hellblade could be something bigger and more spectacular than they thought of when they did the first game, right? Especially with those giant monsters they showed off in the trailer. And I don't know. I feel like Xbox is built different. I don't know if they need something like that.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that they need it's, I think they are going to do stuff like that, but it's going to be the Xbox way. Like that's the thing, is like right now we live in a time where like more than ever it's great to have all the systems, because you're getting a great offering from all the different consoles. And like Microsoft just needs to do like what they know that the people who buy their consoles and stuff, they can keep that stuff doing well, and then they're gonna have stuff that's gonna bring new fans in.
Right.
But
I mean,
I think it's just a matter of focusing what they're good at and what they're best at.
I mean, look at Nintendo. They've never had a game like that, and look how successful the Switch is, right? They've never had anything close to even what, like, in terms of storytelling, like what even Xbox has produced, right? Like, I mean, you could say Breath of the Wild, maybe. You could say Metroid Dread, maybe. But, like, the last time they tried to put any super real story behind anything, people got mad. And remember, Metroid Other M had, like, this really serious story about Samus leaving the Galactic Federation and her having this bond with Adam and Malkovich. And it was just like, well, clearly they didn't want that because Samus talked too much. And they showed her hair in a military garb and not in her.
They showed Samus having feelings.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you could make the argument that like you said, Jesse, I think they need to focus on what they're good at and apply the storytelling to what they're good at. Maybe they just need to hire some writers to take it to the next step, because all in all, the gameplay in most of Microsoft's games is excellent, right? Halo feels great. Gears still feels great. Forza, you're not going to tell an amazing story in Forza, but you could.
And that's just it. Flight Simulator, all these games that they have that are like 10 out of 10s. It's hard to compare those to something like a God of War, because it's just not the same thing.
Right.
But it is doing something that, like, honestly, PlayStation isn't doing. Like that's something that they have that Sony isn't doing. So it's it's all about like what you're interested in, and like I said, it's such a great time right now to own all the consoles, because you're really getting a great selection from everything. Like, everything's kind of offering their things that the other one isn't doing. And it's just a great time to be a fan of games right now.
Right. And I think this is where, like, the studios that they've purchased do excellent storytelling, right? Like Ninja Theory has done great storytelling with Hellblade, and even their older games, like DMC had a great story. Odyssey to the West had a great story. We don't really know what this Project Mara is or what Hellblade 2 is really going to be yet, but I feel like, if they follow the lines of Hellblade, it's going to be pretty good, So they've got a lot of stuff in their pocket too, like Compulsion Games' next game is a third-person action narrative-driven story, right? Like a lot of signs point to it being sort of like BioShock. Like I said, Indiana Jones could be really fun if they do it correctly. All the Bethesda studios, right? Like, they could do something. They've always been, Machine Games has been great at the Wolfenstein games. So I don't know. I don't need them to be Sony, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't care. I just wanted to get your guys' take because of it's been a story floating around, and a lot of people have been kind of retweeting it and talking about it and saying that Xbox doesn't have the capability of doing it. And, maybe they're right, maybe they're not. I just don't. I think that if they hire some writers, if they do, if they really want to do that, I feel like they could pony up the money to try to do something like that somewhere. And maybe if they are looking to buy Crystal Dynamics in Eidos Montreal or something like that, like, they could potentially do something like that. So,
well, the thing is like, say what you will about it, but I mean, it doesn't always turn out great when you try to create something that someone else is doing. Killzone. Like, Killzone, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I never really got into it. I'm sure it's a great game, but I mean, they were like, that was supposed to be the Halo killer, and it's like, when you try to do stuff that you're just trying to copy what your competitor is doing, it's you already set yourself up for failure. You're like, people want something that's unique and your own, and I think Microsoft, gets that. Like they're not out there trying to, copy what Nintendo's doing or copy what PlayStation's doing. Like they're gonna do what they think they need to do for their company, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, look at a game like Psychonauts, right? Like that did a lot of interesting things in storytelling, and it was still a really fun game. It was approachable from a artistic level, like, and then it told a deeper story that if you were paying attention or found things or did some side stuff, like it really told a unique story from a different perspective, and it was great, right? Like not everything has to be like, I'm gonna, Walking Dead, Last of Us, I'm gonna bash your face in, to tell this gritty story because we can do that, right? Like I think people kind of realize that after The Last of Us Part 2, right? We're like, oh, well, maybe this isn't really what we want all the time, or maybe they're just trying a little bit too hard,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the perfect area for game making lies in a perfect balance of that indie title game, but with a really, really big bucket of money behind its development. That ability to have kind of the free reign of kind of really doing unique things with the game, and trying to have something that's doing something different in it, like, but do that plus have be a bigger title and not just an indie small game. Like, and I honestly, I feel like they've done, whether you like it or not, I think like the Grounded stuff that they've been doing, like Grounded is a really cool and interesting game. It's not for everyone, but they're doing a lot of cool things in that game that like, I don't know, just really works. But again, it's one of those things where it's not going to relate to everyone. But I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad that these developers are getting the chance to work on things and ideas that they have, and aren't just being told, hey, that you've got to make a Halo or you've got to do this, or like, I'm glad those kind of days seem to be in the rear view mirror, and they're getting a little bit more freedom. So that's all I want to see. I just want to see like these developers being able to just go crazy with ideas and have money behind it.
Yeah. What do you think?
That's
Stoy?
the problem. We have to consider that video games and developers and publishers are a business first.
Yeah,
they're there to sell games. They're there to sell systems. So when you look at some of the franchise numbers of a lot of stuff, so like the Final Fantasy series as a whole sold 159 million copies. The Assassin's Creed series has sold 156 million copies. Publishers look at those numbers. They look at how much sales are being brought in. The Legend of Zelda series has made $118 million. So Assassin's Creed, that's been around for a significantly less amount of time, has already surpassed Zelda being, Zelda being 30 years old. So it's crazy to think that. And that's what the publishers are thinking of. That's why Sony is ahead of the game here, because they have the bigger franchises. Like, how many people know God of War is a household name now? So what system is God of War on? Okay, it's on a PlayStation system. A lot of people are going to go to that because not a lot of people can afford what we can afford. A lot of people can't afford a PS5 or a Series X. So a lot of times they have to pick the two. And I really think it's the AAA games that really define the difference between going for the PlayStation 5 or the Series X. You get a good contingent of Halo fans out there that love the hell out of Halo. They're going to go for the Xbox. Or you get the contingent of people that love games like Ratchet and Clank or Ghost of Tsushima. They're going to go for the PlayStation. So it really kind of comes down to a business standpoint. It is smart for a publisher. It is smart for even a system manufacturer. Like from Sony's standpoint, it's smart for them to make AAA games. It makes them money. It sells systems, and it's going to be really smart for Microsoft to do that. It's gonna make them money. It's gonna sell the systems.
Yeah, I mean, you look at God of War, right? It's sold the latest game, the 2018 game, sold 19.5 million units, and they're about to put it on PC for the first time, right?
Yeah,
so
it's gonna skyrocket them even more.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna say that's another thing too. Is I think part of Microsoft's kind of readjusting of how they do things is like, I think it was a really good thing that they focused on trying to better the experience on computer as well for their games and stuff like that, because that helps out a lot as well, because I mean there are a lot of people who just don't care about consoles at all, and if they can continue to try to focus on what changes need to be done on the PC side, I think that will actually do a lot more for them than them trying to make their version of a PlayStation game. But like you said, I mean they do need to create some franchises that have a long stay, and moving forward will be a reason that people want to buy Game Pass or buy their consoles.
Well, yeah, and like I said, even like going back to almost how I started the conversation that we were having, is like start pulling a lot of the old franchises, because the name is what's going to sell it. You put the more recent Ghostbusters movie that's going to be coming out in a month. If you wouldn't have put the Ghostbusters name on it, it would have probably not garnered even half the hype that it's getting right now. It's the same thing with every Final Fantasy game that you see. Every Final Fantasy game has a couple small things in common, but it's like they're all widely different. But you attach the name Final Fantasy to it, that's what's going to sell the game. That's what's going to sell copies. So getting not only established franchises, but even popular franchises, getting them back together, getting them back in the mix of it, like I said, with, what game did I mention earlier that they should bring back? Sunset Overdrive. A lot of people have fond memories of that being one of the launch titles for the Xbox One, and having great memories of that. It's like, oh wow, I hope this franchise continues. If they announce that to say Sunset Overdrive 2, that's going to bring people back to Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what old franchises do you think would make a good game like this? Stoy, you said you should bring the old franchises back to make a stellar game like this. Like, besides Perfect Dark, because we know it's already coming back, what do you think could be this type of game if Microsoft? Red Faction. They don't own Red Faction though.
Yeah, I know, but they could.
Yeah, I guess they could.
Think I think that's owned by that.
Coke
wasn't
Media.
that was a THQ published?
Yeah, they still own it.
Yeah, they still own it. So I don't know where it is now, but imagine them bringing that, as an Xbox exclusive, and even just rebooting it, going back to the first person shooter days instead of the third person action game it became right now. Bring it back to be like a really good first person shooter. Reboot the franchise. That would be pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just kind of popped in my head, because I think of like some of the old Xbox games I played way back when. That would be a really good one. Besides Sunset Overdrive, obviously.
Yeah.
Or bro, what was that game? Bullet Witch. Remember Bullet Witch?
Oh God. Yeah.
Dude,
talk about games with microtransactions and like all the costumes and stuff.
Oh yeah, I didn't care about that. But I mean, like that's a weird, obscure title that would not move copies at all. But it would still be cool to get.
I don't know. Have you seen how weird the internet is these days? I think it would.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
I mean, Bayonetta
begs
moves
for
copies.
Yeah,
This could be their
and
Bayonetta.
this was Bayonetta before Bayonetta.
It's true. It's true.
Well,
I want to see
yeah,
what a
like-
Lost Odyssey.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I still would love that. I would love that. And I think
Yeah,
it would be good because, you know, Microsoft is trying to delve into that Japanese market,
Mhm.
and that would be a big one because that was a very popular Japanese Japanese developed game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wasn't like Blue Dragon or whatever, and
Yeah.
And
Lost Odyssey was definitely the better of those two games. Although I still think that their last game, well, their last console game was probably their best effort. Last Story was very
Last
good.
Story.
It was just stuck on
Yep.
Wii, and you know, nobody wanted
Mhm.
to play Wii games by the time that game came out. So,
Yeah.
including
Well-
me, I tried really hard, but Lost Odyssey is definitely the one that people are going to point to and be like, yeah, that's the sequel I want.
Mhm.
well, like, and as much as I'm glad that they're doing really well, and you know, Apex Legends is like such a massive hit and all that, I kind of wish right now, with you know, like us not seeing any like Titanfall new game, you know, anytime soon, it would seem like I kind of wish that someone someone else could have continue making those games, because I really want.
I wouldn't trust that name with any other developer besides
Yeah.
PS1.
I know, and that's the thing. Like, and I get it, because it's not the name alone that's the reason that game's great. It's because of who made it. But at the same time, it's just like, man, I just really want, because Titanfall 2 is still to this day, I think, one of the best, you know, first person shooter campaigns ever made.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm firmly with you on that one. Well, you know, like, and that's the thing. It's like you could pass the franchise on to another developer or another team of writers, but one of my best examples of that is like Batman Arkham Origins compared to like all the other Batmans that Rocksteady made.
Yeah.
Rocksteady took a step away. They gave it to WB Montreal, Arkham Origins, and it was the lowest rated Batman game in the franchise. And admittedly, it wasn't as polished as the Rocksteady games.
I still
Mhm.
really
So,
liked
like-
it though. I liked it a lot.
I mean, it was good, but like the other three games were much better. So, that's always the gamble that you take when you just pass the franchise on to someone else. So,
yeah. And like, you know, and then there's like things like that we've had in the past where like the Dead Rising games and stuff like that used to be, you know, exclusive to Xbox or whatever.
I would love, Dead Rising would be another series I would love to come back. Everybody loves a good zombie game.
Well, what I really would love to see is the guys, the Capcom team who made Dead Rising team up with Undead Labs, and like have the best of what both of those groups do and make a really just phenomenal zombie game, you know.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I think it's, you know, like as we get more and more of the, you know, like the projects that we see of these new teams and stuff, you know, I don't doubt that there's gonna be some heavy hitters that will, you know, that we don't know exist yet even. But yeah, it's just a matter of, we're still in that that situation where it's, you know, everything is still just kind of in infancy. You know, it's takes a little time for there to be a payoff, but yeah, I think the next year or two is going to be really fun and interesting once we really get to see what's going on, you know.
Yeah. I think something else too that we might not be looking at either is like Sony seems to be eating up the licensing stuff, at least from like the Disney side of things, right? With the time exclusivity of Knights of the Republic, and the Marvel stuff is, you know, obviously Sony exclusive at this point, some of it. And I don't know. I would like to see them maybe try to go after a license or two. I mean, Indiana Jones is a start, but
yeah,
let's be honest. Indiana Jones, as much as I love Indiana Jones, It's no Star Wars or Marvel at this point. So I would like to see them maybe go after a license and tell a cool story and make a cool game around a license like that.
Yeah, it would be interesting if they licensed like say for example, Respawn Entertainment was making a new Star Wars game in the Fallen Order universe. If they published that themselves, it made it exclusive for the Xbox. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I know in the current ecosystem, it pays developers more to develop for multi-platforms, because it gets them the most money and it gets them the most reach. But it would be interesting for Microsoft to throw down Microsoft money and say, here, make the next game exclusive to our system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Phil Spencer said he didn't like to do that, but like you got to play ball now. Like Sony's throwing that money around, and I know that you're buying studios to do that, but like you got to make some calls like that now. Sony's playing hardball with these licenses. They're throwing money around like left and right,
Yeah. And you got to take a gamble on it. You got to take a gamble on these studios that maybe want to come up with these new franchises, because who wants to be a Call of Duty factory every year? I feel bad for these studios that they're just pumping out the same games over and over and over again. Like give these talented developers something new to work on, something immense to work on. Like you got the guys that made Titanfall 2, one of the best first-person shooters of our time, go on to make one of the best third-person action games of all time too. And one of the best games in the Star Wars universe. Like, you let these developers do what they're good at, they'll make some good things for you, and it will benefit you. It's just you gotta kind of trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, that was a good topic. That was a good discussion. It went a lot longer than I thought, but I feel like it was better than I anticipated too. So, good job, guys. Proud of you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So, well, we're gonna wrap the show. I want to thank everybody who was watching and or listening live here on twitch.tv/Boss Rush Network. If you want to watch it live, you can check us out on Sunday nights at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, or catch the show on podcast services on Tuesday mornings and YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you listen to us. Jesse, where can we find you?
You can find me almost everywhere as Phantom NXS.
Stoy, where can we find you?
You can find me on part of the EXP Cast podcast. We do record episodes every week, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EXP Cast. You can also follow our YouTube channel. On October 30th, we're going to be streaming live for Extra Life and raising money for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. So it's going to be a fun day of playing games for 24 hours.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that's.
If you want to go to their YouTube channel, our YouTube channel has them as one of our featured partners at the bottom. So you can go down there and get there too if you can't find them by typing it in. So you can find me at I am Corey in HD on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me hosting the Boss Rush podcast every Wednesday night right here on twitch.tv/Boss Rush Network, or on Monday mornings on your podcast service of choice. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.